Just fucking do it. Subscribe now.
What the opportunity cost was for Blockbuster to not take advantage of buying Netflix back when they were still unprofitable.
Netflix is still privately held, right?
It's owned by
No,
NBC.
it's public.
It's public, but you have an evolution from Netflix. They got into all the Hollywood stuff, and then the evolution to Comcast, which went to NBC Universal. So it's
NBC Universal
I believe we have to confirm.
and Netflix doesn't have its own listing, its own market cap.
Yeah, it does. It's got a share price of $900 and some.
Netflix.
Yeah, per share.
Fuck. When did that happen?
They've been on the market since forever. They've probably had investors, but they've always been a public company since they went public.
Who cares? It's a American media company. It's still owned by Reed Hastings, Mark Randolph in Scotts Valley, California.
So that's private?
No, it's now called America Media. It's an America Media company. That's how they have it. Just Netflix Inc.
Well, type in Google Netflix and see what the market cap is. Right here.
909.05 as of December 20th, 2024.
909.
909.05.
That's the stock price.
$909.
Correct.
They are a $388 billion company.
388.
Mm-hmm. Billion.
And the stock price currently is 909.
No shit. Okay.
So
the Blockbuster could have bought them for $50 million.
Back when they were unprofitable, when they were losing.
When did they start Netflix?
1997.
No shit.
98 because it took them 9 years to be profitable. They had $49 million in profit off of $949 million.
When Blockbuster had the opportunity to buy them, they were losing $60 million a year back in 2000.
Yeah, in 2006, Hastings was talking about his profits at that point, and that didn't consider anything in the dark world of pornography or anything of that sort on DVDs at that point, because they weren't necessarily in that market at that point, up until that point, because he said you could get anything on DVD, right? And they just hadn't moved into that market.
They've got over 13,000 employees.
Mm-hmm.
So our discussion really is just going to be about the history, the opportunities where they could have been acquired, and how a couple of outsiders, trying to compete with them, because Walmart tried to compete. Blockbuster tried to compete, and Viacom owner Redstone, gave that equity injection to Blockbuster when he really would have been better served, putting it into Netflix.
Netflix basically went after them and put them out of business, basically, because if you look at Blockbuster's stock price over the years, by 2004, they dipped. They were as low as 3 million, as high as 30 million, back up to 6 million, kind of where that was where they just kind of stepped on their neck and just moved in a different direction. Netflix did. And they took a bath.
Netflix was one of the first companies to start using AI in terms of using it to predict if you watch this movie or that movie, what other movies within their catalog you're more likely to be, wanting to look at. And so they used that to be able to recommend. They used AI as a way of recommending other content, which grew their subscriber base. And they were doing that back in the early 2000s.
Well, that would make sense, though, because Hastings' background, he's a computer scientist and a mathematician. Right? So at that point, because their mail order business or rental business was from 97 to 2006. And at that point, he acquired, he was a co-founder of Pure Software, which I didn't realize, and then also of Rational Software. And they acquired that for $750 million. It was the biggest acquisition in Silicon Valley at the time.
Hastings?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was a big Silicon Valley
serial entrepreneur.
And then they started to switch over. They eventually moved towards streaming.
But Blockbuster could have did all of this that Netflix did.
They
had a chance. They just didn't go with the contract with Warner Brothers.
There was a lot of resistance to innovation by a lot of companies back then.
Still is.
Yeah.
Well, because even at some point here in 2000, I'll have to find the year, but Randolph and Hastings actually met with Bezos for Amazon. Amazon offered to acquire Netflix between 14 and 16 million, fearing competition from Amazon. Randolph first thought the offer was fair. Hastings, who owned 70% of the company, turned it down immediately on the plane ride home.
What year was this?
That was back in 97, testing it doesn't actually give the year. We were talking in the 90s because they jumped forward in the story to a pre-rental model, and then they jumped forward to the CEO of Blockbuster thought that the offer was a joke, and that his name was John Anico. Remember, because Hastings was a dot-com bubble multi-millionaire. That's how he made all his money in the beginning before expanding out. And as you pointed out, Juan, the original reason for Hastings doing this was he had a $40 late fee from Blockbuster that he couldn't tell his wife.
Yep.
Porn.
Blockbuster didn't have porn,
definitely.
did they?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure because
That's
one
a
of the
different
guys,
video.
one of the guys back in the 90s, we used to have TVs in your room and with the cassette thing, okay? And Pauline, or one of the girls, put it on my desk and said, "This came from such and such a suite." And so, and it was, it was porn. And I still remember, I actually turned it on because I know that I could play that kind of stuff in my office. I can't anymore. And it was about a girls' school for little bad girls. It was called Little Bad Girls, I think. Little Bad Girls, and they were fucking the teachers and everything. And I said, well, geez. And it came, Blockbuster. It was a Blockbuster deal. This has been 97-ish,
wow.
Mm-hmm.
maybe 98.
That would be the start of it.
Yeah, so.
By 2006, that's why you're seeing the financials the way you are.
Yeah.
Netflix actually filed a patent infringement against Blockbuster. That's where the fight began of that Blockbuster's online DVD rental subscription program violated 2 patents that Netflix had held at that point.
That's crazy. So Netflix sprung from the idea that he didn't want to have on his record that he had a late fee for some porn that he didn't take back to Blockbuster.
It's what it says right at the beginning of the Yale article. Is afraid to have a fallout with his wife.
That is nuts.
That was his inspiration to start Netflix.
Insane.
I didn't realize that Sky TV that we have here, and it goes news, fitness, and then if you go all the way to the end, it goes adult. I've never been all the way to the scroll to the end. The farthest I've ever gotten is fitness, and then it's got adult. And so,
porn actually spurred the innovation of a lot of the things in the tech field, like VHS and all that. That because most of the tapes being generated through business was on VHS, especially with all the volume that was being sold in porn. That's how it became the dominant media tool versus Betamax and all those other different, I think they had VHS and some other kinds of tapes. Those other tapes got washed out. DVD the same way. You had all these like 3 or 4 different versions of DVD media, and the version that won out, Blu-ray or whatever, was because that's the one that the porn movies were sold the most on and generated the most money on. That's crazy. I found out that all of the innovation in terms of digital marketing and all that, there's so much volume flowing through the servers on the porn side. All the innovation is happening over there, and then that technology gets pushed over to the commercial side.
Well, I know in the late 90s, early 2000s, we were, Sally and I had bought a company from one of you guys that got in trouble and was on the run from Interpol and the taxing authorities in America and in the UK. And we show up, they'd have like the top 25 guys, companies that advertise in Google. And we used to spend $100 million on advertising in Google back in the day. And we'd make $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a day on AdSense. And then they changed the algorithms. So I went to one of the meetings, and they're all porn guys except for me. They spent that kind of money on advertising. And and I came dressed in a 3-piece suit, and they're all wearing gold chains and shit. You know, is it called bling?
Bling.
Yeah.
And so it was amusing that. But then they changed algorithms, and that, yeah. And that we woke up, we went from $77,000 one day on a Friday to Monday, $1,400.
Were you aware of what kinds of changes were made?
To this day, I don't know.
There are groups that stay in touch, stay on top of that.
Yeah.
But if you can make the adjustments based on what changes.
Yeah, well, the business, what I call the straight up business model, they dropped, and they weren't interested.
There are tweaks you can make to minimize the impact of those changes. That's what I was saying. There are groups out there, digital marketing groups that stay on top of the changes that Google makes all the time to help you tweak your stuff to get it back to where it was prior to the change. So it's possible to.
Well, if we got it back to 100, 60, 70 grand a day, I probably wouldn't be giving seminars. Sally would love that. It'd be, like, just send the money, don't come to the seminar. And I'll have to mention that to Sally.
Since you were mentioning Sky, in 2018, Sky UK announced an agreement with Netflix and announced Netflix's subscription for the VOD offering into its pay-per-TV service. Customers with its high-end Sky TV set box, they'll be able to see Netflix titles alongside their regular Sky channels.
Yeah. Now there's this countless movies.
The last point to that, in 22, Netflix finally revealed its annual revenue from the UK subscribers in 21 was 1.4 billion euros.
Okay, any questions, guys?
No.
How to stay effective constantly. How to stay effective constantly, besides just pushing. But
it's your entire environment. It's to use the popular phrase, it's your entire ecosystem. And since most of the ecosystems of the kids that come here are fucked up. Some are fucked up 100%, and some are only fucked up 20%. It's making those changes. I mean, if you recall, on the one-day seminar, I went to a slide. What do the top QLA bot guns do on a daily basis? And I went through it. One of which is almost all of them have standing desks. Okay, almost all of them start the day, like Roberto says, with a dose of Dan screaming at me to get me regulated. The Goomba brothers start the day by lecturing their kids on the way to school about QLA. They have 5 or 6 breaks during the day where they're reading 5 or 10 or 15 minutes or listening to QLA 5 or 10 or 15 minutes. It seems my voice triggers in your system to get the synapses firing. All of them find a time, the best time for them to make cold calls. And unfortunately, a lot of people are morning people. That's not the time to fucking call anybody, okay? And some of you are evening people, and the time to call is late afternoon, early evening, and on the weekends, all day, Saturday and Sunday.
To get in touch with an owner.
To get in touch with an owner. And the scripts are, it's Saturday morning, you must be the owner. Nobody works Saturday morning. Yeah. I can't get anybody to work. Yeah, okay. Then you got the hook in. The kids, the very, very best kids like Anelli make 5 to 8 meetings a day. A day. And all he did, Anelli, is copy. I remember his assistant, this is 6 years ago, called Kim and wanted to know if these numbers were still accurate, because I sent him what I do, okay? And he says, because she knew that somehow you got 5 to 8 meetings a day, the assistants are going to be dependent on for some of that. And so Kim said, oh yeah, that was for real. Those were hellish days, because Kim was around in those days, because she'd been with me almost 20 years. And then when he started to make it work, then I made it a slide. which you guys got. He also meets everybody eyeball to eyeball, handshake to handshake. No Zoom meetings. Okay.